First up is we had an extraordinary court order this week related to James Comey. Now, who's James Comey? He is, those of you who don't know, he used to be the FBI director until he was fired by President Trump, rightly so, last year. I guess it was in March that he was fired. So Judicial Watch, now Comey has proved himself to be an anti-Trumper. He hates President Trump. After he was fired, he took the FBI files related to President Trump, leaked them through a friend to the New York Times with the hopes of getting a special counsel appointed. This is what he testified to, and indeed Robert Mueller was appointed. His predecessor as FBI director, one of his mentors, shows you how the Mueller investigation was corruptly formed. So obviously we're very interested in what Comey's been up to. He orchestrated the suppression and of the Clinton email investigation, while also pushing the anti-Trump Russia investigation at the same time. So we've asked for a variety of records about Mr. Comey since he's left. Most recently, we sued with the Daily Caller News Foundation for documents he has about meetings he had with other politicians. Was he only writing memos about meetings he supposedly had with President Trump, or did he write memos about meetings he had with Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Barack Obama and people like that? So we asked for those records, and so the case is moving along. And then this IG report gets released by the Justice Department Inspector General, where James Comey admits that it's disclosed that James Comey was conducting government business on his personal email accounts, right? So Hillary Clinton must have been thrilled about that. So the Judicial Watch, we asked the Justice Department, what's going on here? Are you searching those emails? Because if there are government records over there, you need to be searching them. In the least, you need to be preserving them. So they sent a letter to the Comey asking that he preserve the records. Or so they tell us, because they wouldn't share the email with us. So what Judicial Watch does is that we don't take the government's word for it. We push and push and push, and we went into federal court and we asked for a preservation order from the federal court judge overseeing this case. In this case, it was Judge Colleen Kohler-Catelli. And the government, this Justice Department, this FBI, opposed the idea of a preservation order, a federal court preservation order. Well, thankfully, Judge Kohler-Catelli rejected those arguments and issued a preservation order requiring that the Comey personal emails be preserved. And the order reads, in part, the court will allow the DOJ until September 28, 2018 to complete its review and release of any responsive non-exempt records to plaintiffs, meaning us and the Daily Caller News Foundation. That being said, the DOJ is also ordered to make rolling productions between today and September 28th. So that's good in the sense that we're going to get some of these records finally. In order to avoid any possible issues later in this litigation, the court will grant Judicial Watch's motion. The DOJ is ordered to take all necessary and reasonable steps to ensure that any records that are potentially responsive to either of the plaintiff's FOIA requests are preserved. Although it contends that such an order is unnecessary, the DOJ has not explained why this preservation order would prejudice defendant or cause any undue burden. Now, the court in its order also said, look, it doesn't mean I believe that there are necessary government records on these accounts or that they're being destroyed, but let's just be safe. And you need to take all reasonable and necessary steps. Well, so we asked the government, so this is great. We got this order from the federal court over the objections, again, of the FBI and Justice Department. Now, I want you to imagine if you were the subject of a court order to preserve your records. What would the FBI do to make sure that order was enforced? You think they might take up your records, seize them, maybe send you a letter with the judicial order telling you that you're subject to it? So we asked the FBI Justice Department what they're going to do to enforce this court's order that they take all reasonable and necessary steps to ensure that any records are located on his personal email accounts are preserved. And they told us they're not going to do anything. Because their position is the letter they sent was good enough and they're not going to do anything else. This is the contempt the FBI and the Justice Department have for the rule of law and transparency. And the rules that apply to you and I don't apply to James Comey, the former FBI director. So they're not going to, I'm not saying that they need to raid his home, but certainly if he were a private citizen in the ordinary course, they might raid his computers or seize his computers. They're not going to do any of that to comply with this court's order. I don't know what we're going to do, if anything, because the court did suggest that maybe the letter was good enough. But it doesn't seem to me she would have issued a court ruling ordering the FBI and DOJ to take all necessary and reasonable steps if she thought the initial step was good enough. But this is the way this Justice Department and the FBI operate. They are contemptuous of transparency, they're arrogant, and they don't think the rule and the laws apply to them.